So we're going to call to order the May 23rd Governance Committee meeting at 8:46 p.m. We were a little bit later in our hearing, and so now we are starting this meeting late. Ms. Shope, could we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Brian Nichols?
No, this is for the committee, the governance committee.
Oh, sorry. Megan Miller? Present. And Sean Levy?
Present.
All members are present, with Megan Miller appearing virtually.
All right, and just a reminder that because Spencer Anderson has stepped down, this is a committee where there's only 2 members at present. So that's our roll call. We get to the approval of the agenda. Megan, I was going to suggest that for tonight that we just hear our long-range facility planning, because we have people that are presenting to us, and pick the other parts of the agenda up at a later date. Is there a motion?
Are you asking for a motion to amend the agenda?
Yes.
So moved.
All right, moved by Megan Miller, seconded by Sean Levy, to have our agenda where we'll just take up item 2A. All right, just to get any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, start by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. 2A, EUA long-range facility planning.
Thank you, Board President Levy, for making that agenda adjustment. I do have with us today EUA, our long-range facilities planning team, along with Mr. Luke Butts, who has serviced us over these past few months. As you all know, that Mr. Butts is in tomorrow is his last day. But I did want to make sure that he had the opportunity to kind of share a little bit about our process and how we got to this point, as well as some final words as he, again, will be transitioning into his new position in the following, as of Wednesday, sorry. I'm sorry, today is Tuesday, right? As of Thursday, his last day will be with us on Thursday. With that being stated, the long-range facilities plan is something that we have to kind of work ourselves through. I do know that in these processes, there is a lot of details that comes with this process. And what I would like to do is make sure the board is kind of kept up to date as kind of what we're doing as we move through these processes, but also be able to bring this to the full board at a later time as well. This is just the first opportunity for you to hear from them since their selection back in March. And I would like to now turn it over to Mr. Butts for a quick quick introductions to the team in absence of Mr. Chady, our Business Services Director. Mr. Butts.
Thank you, Dr. Garrison. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you to Dr. Garrison, the school board, and the rest of the school district of Beloit for giving me the opportunity to serve here in the short time that I was here. It's really been a privilege to work with the incoming leadership and also the school board for the brief amount that we've had to work together. We have started to put together many of the pieces of a great team for facilities assessment and long-range master planning. I'll be fairly brief with that and just say thank you for my opportunity here. It's been great. This is a great community, and I leave with a newer and deeper respect and understanding of this community, having the opportunity to serve here. So thank you. Good luck. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Megan. Charlie and Andy with EUA are obviously the architect consultant piece and our partner, long-range partner to assist the district with the facilities assessment and our long-range master planning. Moving further on, we'll be going into the construction management piece as well, but we really have between all of the district players and assembling EUA and the fine team members that we have here, the district is really on a good course to set us up for success from a facilities standpoint and just overall standpoint. So I wish everyone luck, and once again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. We'll now turn it over to EUA for our quick overview.
Awesome, thank you. Can you all hear me okay?
It sounds like it's not.
It's not doing much, is it?
Yeah, it almost,
Correct.
that also was on when I was using it.
More time, start again.
Testing it.
Test. There we go. Well, thank you to the School District of Beloit for having us tonight, and excited to talk about our process. As Luke mentioned, my name is Charlie. I am an architect, registered architect with EUA, but in addition to being architects, we're also planners and strategic-minded community engagers as well. We can advance the next slide and talk about next steps here. So we do have a little agenda. We'll be going over, well, I just introduced myself. Andy, let's go off script. Why don't you introduce yourself too?
Excuse me for a minute. Michelle, on the meet, what is being recorded, you're presenting. So there's a difference between what's on the screen there and then what's on the meet screen. Might have to keep pace with the slide.
Michelle, I can stop. You can continue, but Michelle, I can stop sharing my screen,
Okay.
and you can advance the slides on that screen as well. It's up to you.
Yeah. Either that or I'll stop, and either way. I think we're fighting each other.
Got it. So
That's
you can
fine.
stop. You can stop sharing your screen, and
stop
I'll stop.
sharing?
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, in the meantime, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Andy Lyons. I'm also with EUA. I'm what's called an engagement specialist. I work almost exclusively with school districts on the pre-referendum side of things. I know that we are a long way away from a referendum if the board so chooses, but do a lot of work planning and ensuring the community and all of its stakeholders has a voice in the planning process. I work out of our Madison office.
Advance. Oh, yeah, this is fine. We can advance. Andy and I are, we can advance one more time.
Let me do one thing, Michelle. You can just take over the screen, Michelle. I'll stop presenting. Michelle.
Wait, I can do it right now.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. So now,
You're not showing in the meeting.
okay. So let me do this real quick.
Right.
It's okay.
It wasn't letting me log out.
Okay, then I'll come back to the meeting part real soon. I'll go back to the Google Meet and share my screen.
Work some technology into the facilities.
Noted.
Duly noted. Sometimes.
Might have too much technology. Sometimes that's the issue, right?
Yeah, sometimes that is the issue, right? Okay, I want to do this and I want to do this. Now you guys see the same thing? All right, perfect. So here we go. Now you see it there, but you don't see it there.
So now, now the presentation, which is being recorded, can be seen by those who will be watching the recording. But those who are presenting in the room don't have the.
Give me a second.
All right. All right, I think everything is the same now.
Perfect.
Here we go.
We got this.
No problem. Go ahead.
So Andy and I are representative of a team of about 5 or 6 people that are focused on the School District of Beloit and Denver. Those folks are indicated on the screen, and then we have a bench of people that will ultimately work on this project of about 40 plus individuals. We've worked with districts like yours, about over 160 of them, and over the last 10 years, all of the referendum values have totaled over $2 billion. So very proud of that. You can advance. And here are just some a sampling of some of those districts we've worked with. Thank you, Dr. Garrison. We're excited about the school district of Beloit. This is an exciting community, a lot of opportunity. We're excited to look at this district through your lens. You know, one thing we try to emulate or try to exercise is really letting our preconceptions aside and seeing the district through your eyes. We look at the portrait of the graduate and really try to take on those values and mission focused values as we begin the facility assessment and long range planning. As with any successful endeavor, we have a very thoughtful schedule here. This is a timeline. We also refer to this as our strategy. From left to right, of course, is March of this year, which is when we were hired. Thank you, by the way. And through to the end, which would be November 2024. This schedule is divided into two sections. You'll notice at the bottom half of the screen, or I say bottom quarter, is an optional referendum path should you choose to proceed or decide on engaging in a referendum in November 2024. But up until then, we have four major phases of this plan. It's the facilities assessment, financial planning, long-range facilities master planning, and then community engagement. So the first element of this, and this will take us through October, is the facility assessment. There are three main components of the facility assessment. We do a capacity and utilization study, which looks at the schools, how many students they can accommodate, current enrollment, and that tells us a piece of the story of the facility assessment. The second element is a facility conditions report. This looks at the sticks, the bricks, the systems in the building, the shape they're in, the expected lifespan of those systems, et cetera. And then the third and final major component of the facilities assessment is the educational adequacy, which looks at how well the environments support the district's curricular goals for the school or schools. Here's everything I just told you. Again, those major components of the facilities assessment. This is just a slide showing the data that is uncovered during the conditions assessment. Again, one of the three elements of the facilities assessment. This is detail from another district, another project. Ultimately, this feeds into, this data feeds into an appendix that will supplement the facility assessment, and this appendix might be 100, 150 pages long. Ultimately, we'll put all of that data and information into Power BI so that if we present it to community members or stakeholders or even you, the board, you can understand it. And this is a graphic form of all that data, just to more easily understand it. And we can adjust this on the fly and look at specific, if you want to see HVAC issues at the high school, for example, we could really drill into just those components as an example. We can look at timelines. We can look at different systems. Again, this is a tool that we've tried to simplify potentially hundreds of pages of data to communicate it simply to you. The next component of the assessment that I mentioned was the educational adequacy. Here's an example of a summary from another district in which we do tours and walkthroughs in the school, and we look at the school through 7 different forms of criteria, and we start to identify deficiencies, if applicable, for each of those 7 criteria. Ultimately, again, this too has a lot of backup information that feeds into this summary, but this is used as a prioritization tool when it comes time to facility planning. That educational adequacy assessment, or from here on out, I'll be referring to as the EAA. The first thing that we look at is the site. And here we look at some detail, but generally speaking, we look at parent pickup, drop off. We look at athletic fields. We look at the site capacity. We look at safety here on the site. We look at accessibility. We look at wayfinding, and that helps tell the story of the site. And then we get into the building, and we'll sit down with building principals and maybe members of the executive team, or maybe even board members such as yourself, to do a walkthrough and to, again, understand how well the environment supports the curricular goals. So here we're looking at the environment, we're looking at natural light, sometimes we're looking at ADA accessibility here. We're looking at the infrastructure, how well the technology supports your curricular goals. We're looking at furniture. We're looking at spaces. Are they adjacent to one another? So a multitude of criteria, a lot of data. Again, this component of the assessment really speaks to how well the spaces support the teaching and learning goals. Ultimately, this feeds into our long-range planning. So at the completion of the facility assessment, again, around October, November, we'll establish some financial benchmarks based on some of those elements in the facility assessment. That's when we'll also deploy a community survey, which Andy will be talking about here in a moment, or I should say an information session, to be clear. And that's really when we start charting the path for long-range planning. And now here's a graphic that I think communicates our process pretty succinctly. This is a spectrum, if you will, of long-range master planning, and every district is different. So again, we don't come to the table with preconceptions. We really want you to tell us where you fall on this spectrum. As we advance the process, we get into what if asking. And often we'll ask the question, well, what if you did nothing? And then we'll ask the question, well, what if you did everything? And then usually districts, as you might expect, will fall somewhere between let's just do nothing or let's just do in between. I've yet to work with a district that said, yeah, let's do everything, though that would be fun, and I would encourage it, certainly. On the screen, two graphics here kind of communicate how we support that process. Again, a lot of tools in the tool belt. On the left is really a data-driven capacity analysis. And I don't think this is occurring at any of the schools here yet. We're still getting to know you. But we can look at capacity, what happens to capacity at certain schools if buildings come online or go offline, what the effect is downstream over like a 10-year period, for example. On the right-hand side is a simple graphic from another district. Okay, what if we took 4 schools offline, built another intermediate school, put 2 additions on, a high school and a middle school, for example, what that might mean in simple terms. Really good communication tool. Keep in mind that orange color and the blue colors, those will speak to future graphics right here on the left. Again, another tool, we start to look at planning. Okay, is it light renovations that we're talking about? Is it heavy renovations? Are we doing additions? Are we doing totally new buildings? And then on the right, a great tool that we've had a lot of success with. It's a prioritization tool, again, that we can use with you, the board, we can use with the committee, we can use with community members that are interested. And this tool really, if you notice on the right there, there's that dashed red line, which might be the referendum threshold or that dollar value that you feel the community would support. And on the left-hand side is the laundry list of options that you might consider. And so we can click those on or off, and you can see how the bar on the right would grow or decrease. And so instantly, folks can quickly understand, okay, well, we can't do everything, but if we did these 5 things, we would be just under our appetite or a threshold for referendum dollar value. Again, just tools in the tool belt to assist this process. And I'm going to hand it over to Andy to talk about community engagement.
Excellent. Thank you, Charlie. Can everybody hear me okay? Fantastic. So Charlie talked a lot about kind of gathering this objective data, listening to the district, gathering information, and that information then kind of forming the basis of the options we develop. The option development process is kind of intertwined with our community engagement work. We feel as a firm that it is critically important to listen to your stakeholders and form decisions based on their input. So we will develop. We're in the process of developing a plan that will engage your stakeholders, from your community members, your students, your staff, your parents, etc. Very, very important work, and you see that kind of, again, threaded throughout this plan in that salmon color. We believe, and we've heard, that a facilities committee, maybe an ad hoc facilities committee, might be something that the district is interested in working with. That's work that we have done in numerous districts around the state. We can facilitate that work on behalf of the district, or support the work in the background. The important thing is trying to gather as many voices, as diverse a set of voices as possible, to participate in that process. And you see that laid out there in late fall of 2023, and kind of working through early to mid 2024. Similar slide here. We first want to listen to you, the board. What are your goals for this process? What types of facilities do you envision? We want to work that information through the committee at some point. Move on here. You see, again, kind of that Charlie talked about, kind of the tool belt. We've got a number of different strategies that we can use to engage the community. I mentioned the facilities committee. I think it's also really important to try to spread the word as broadly as possible, not just work with that relatively small group of stakeholders, but also engage the community as a whole. And I've already started to talk to Monica about some different strategies that we might employ in order to do exactly that. Real brief little note here. This graphic is one that I like a lot. It shows on the left-hand side an institution, a school board, a school district, but any sort of institution that informs their stakeholders, right? Information going out and solely going out. On the right-hand side, we see an institution that really empowers its stakeholders, makes collective decisions. I'm interested in getting more feedback from all of you. You know, what sort of approach do you want to take to not only this facilities committee, potential committee, but the community as a whole? Where do you fall on this spectrum as a group of school board members as we set about this process? And then just a little example here, a little sampling of some of the deliverables that can get distributed to community members, your stakeholders, should the district choose to go to referendum at some point in the future. Very, very important, as you all well know, given your experience in April, to provide that objective information to as broad a swath of the community as possible, so they can make an informed decision on election day. So we will support the district in that regard, of course, along with the construction manager that you choose. Many of those construction managers are very, very adept at developing graphics and the like. So, what's next? Charlie, were you taking this, or was I?
I can take that.
Okay.
I can take this. This is fine. Feel free to chime in as well.
I'll just elbow you out of the way.
That's fine.
Yeah.
We want to keep all of you informed, of course, throughout this process. And so we're tentatively looking at the August 22nd board meeting and the October 24th board meeting. Could also be September. So happy to hear feedback from all of you as to when you might like that. The facility assessment, there's a lot of information in that, and so we like to split it up over a few board meetings. And so we thought we would cover at the August 22nd meeting, potentially to review the capacity and utilization, looking at all facilities, looking at the utilization. Again, as I expressed, there's a lot of information there to dig through. And that might also be the time where we've already begun the discussions of establishing or solidifying the formation of a committee, but this is maybe when that committee has a charge and a mission and a direction and is established, perhaps at that August meeting. And then revisiting again in September, or here we're showing October, to present the balance of the facility assessment at this time as well. We hope to have some good enrollment data from Vanderwall and Associates. And then at that time, there, as you can see listed, finalizing that committee. And really now it's boots on the ground. Let's start working together. Let's start advancing the facility planning and long-range master planning process. And I think this concludes our presentation, and our last slide here is for Q&A. Thank you again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So we do thank you for the presentation. Board Member Miller, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have the presentation in front of me, but I looked it over in preparation for the meeting. I think it's very thorough, and I guess I don't have any questions. I really appreciate just some feedback. You clearly put a lot of time and energy, looking through the strategic plan, considering our community and all of our timelines. And I appreciate that you already know, when you're coming back. So at this moment, I feel really secure in the direction that we're heading. And I just want to offer an appreciation for your work. And also, Mr. Butts, I was having trouble with my phone earlier. I just wanted to thank you again for the contributions you made to our district. I really appreciate it.
So I'll open it up to any of the board members that are present in the room if you have a question or a comment to the work that was presented.
No, I don't. At this point.
All right.
I guess the only comment I would make is I'm looking forward to your reports as they come in, and really getting a close view of what it is that we really have in facilities in this district, and what it is that we need to do to make it the best that we possibly can.
Right. So I'll just kind of add a couple things. One, thank you for the work. We did need a partner to help provide us an assessment of our facilities. Prior to you, last spring, we had some things in play, and those things did not come to fruition. So we're definitely glad to be in partnership with you to help us along. We've completed our strategic plan. We have hired our superintendent. We're having some transitions as people are kind of coming and going, but we're stabilized in certain positions where we had not been. Having come through our most recent election, we have new board member and a returning board member, but we also have a board member that is exiting. So there's a little bit of transition, but we are pretty stable. And we're trying to move forward. One of the things that we did with our finances is we did have our ad hoc referendum committee because we needed to capitalize on the 2023 opportunity to ask some questions. So we kind of presented where we're at in our finances to our community. That ad hoc committee did recommend that we go to the voters, and we did. We know there were some pieces that we just weren't able to provide, so we had to go off of what we had at the information at that time. So we know that continual engagement of our community is something that is of a great interest to us, because we're also at a transition point. We were very close, like a 49-51 space in the capital question that was asked, and we're a little bit further away, about 300 or so votes in the operational question. But we have done work with school perceptions, and where we found ourselves around this time last year was what projects, how much, and working on getting that committee. We were in a transition with our leadership at the time, and what took precedence was hiring a superintendent so that we can continue to have a driver of our strategic plan and our work. And when Dr. Garrison came on in November, we had to move swiftly in towards creating our questions and getting that language together. So we've done a lot of the work, minus the level of community engagement that I would think that all of us as board members have expressed that we want to have, so that our community really understands what is at stake for us. We're at some decision points where things that have been kind of kicked down the road are being addressed. Dealing with our decline in enrollment. Presently, we're in 4 middle schools. Our students in grades 6 through 8, but we got enough kids to fit in one building. And so we've already had to begin to make some adjustments because over the last 2 or 3 years, with some other competition and decline in enrollment and parents choosing to take other options, where we've lost about 2,000 kids in the process. We have our local districts that students open enroll to, some private school options, and then local charter competition. And we're working, and what we're focused on is providing the best opportunity for all the students that we're serving. And if, parents will make choices, we want to be their provider of choice, but we have to adjust and right-size our ship so that we can meet those accommodations. That's where we have been focused at. So, for our community that has some, I'll say we're used to change, but no one likes adjusting to changes when they're coming. But that's why your work is important for us, to kind of provide a foundation of putting the information out in front of our public so they can understand that these are the factors that the 7 of us are considering, and putting all the information out in front of everyone else so it's as plain to them as it is to us about some of the choices that we're going to make. Understanding we can't make everyone happy, and that in the process of change, there is going to be some change. But, feeling that if people are fully informed and they understand the same factors and the same information that the board is looking at, and understand what our professionals like Dr. Garrison, the points that they have to consider, that it makes it a more informed choice for our community, so that we're not susceptible to that as the responsible party, we haven't provided the information that helps people feel like they're able to make a solid choice. So that's kind of where we're sitting at this point in time, understanding it's June, it's May, but it's almost June. We know how time moves. Sometimes it just seems like it moves faster and not at a constant rate, but looking towards the state budget in July, for that to be finalized in September, third Friday count, October, our budget, and at around the same time you're saying that you're providing information to us to help us get in that phase. One of the things, looking at your timeline, that I would ask, that probably some of the work with the community engagement, because our ad hoc referendum process, our ad hoc committee process, now that we've been through it, involves selection of members from the board president and the superintendent, and then the board taking action on those committee members. So I think in your presentation, I kind of saw that committee work somewhere in October. I would think that we, as we're already at June and July, and we're actually kind of at a phase where we've done a lot of things over the last couple of years, that we're able to slow down and do some other things. But in the summer months, maybe needing to work some of that engagement, or might be later July or August, but to kind of give a little bit of an earlier start with that, because that'll take some collaboration between Dr. Garrison and myself and the full board to see the committee and then approve the committee. And so, like I said, we just have a lot more time than we did before to kind of put things in place and make sure that people are comfortable and have an understanding. And I think that for our community, we just want to make sure that we're providing a longer runway, so there's opportunity to ask more questions and over communicate.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with this. We know that there's going to be a lot of noise in, summer of 2024, right? And probably even spring of 2024. So we want to ensure that there is that long runway that you describe, Board Member Levy. Absolutely agree. Monica and I have actually talked about a potential communication in August. Don't want to get in front of myself or ourselves, but we could sprinkle in some information about facilities planning for sure. With respect to the committee, it's my opinion personally, and we haven't discussed this as a team or in core team. We want to make sure that the information from the facility study is queued up and ready to go so that the facilities committee, if there is one, is ready to start kind of churning through the information, right? So we need to sequence things properly, in my view.
Right,
yeah.
right. And one of the things that I would say also too, some of it may even just be, we're not looking to overburden or rush work, but even as you said, as you presented the tools, helping people understand the tools that will be used so that when they actually see the tool with the completed work, and so that's part of not having a completed study, their tools and feedback on where we're at that we're just in our community that we don't have right now. And so that's a part of that growing, that development and understanding. And really what we're trying to do is make sure that we are leaving, through our work, the breadcrumbs per se that these are the types of things that should be in place. And now they're in a regular practice of these things happening when they should happen. So we're not so far off in being able to make adjustments because things that need to be done had not been done.
And certainly one of the things that we can do early on in that facilities committee process is take facilities committee members to your facilities, right? We know that so many folks just haven't been in the buildings for so long. Maybe it's been since they were in school themselves, 10, 20, 30 years, and they just don't have a good on the ground understanding of what conditions really are like. So maybe some of that early committee work that you're describing could be exactly that.
Let me just note that just to the board, we came in March under my leadership to get this moving as it pertains to the facilities conversation. Of course, we vetted the teams, and EUA was our chosen opportunity here. From March, what you all don't know is the day-to-day stuff. We've been meeting with EUA, just having conversations about not only the plan, but also even this presentation from April into today, to May. Moving forward, as you can tell, my process is very clear that we want to continue these conversations, but also understanding that we are still under a facilities study. And so there's still only a certain amount of things we can do until the facility study is actually all the way completed. And so I know there's Board Member Levy, I definitely understand that there's a need to make sure that our community is well aware of this conversation. And again, that is why I'm bringing it to everyone now, letting everyone know that, hey, we're doing this. Hey, we are in the process. And then when we bring it to the full board, those are opportunities as well for people to hear that, hey, again, we're doing this and we're moving it forward. Very similar to the previous, and I want to share this and then I'll be done, but very similar to the previous referenda. I know it was, I would say light years of speed that we had to kind of but move through that conversation. But it was a very similar pace that we will have to move into this next conversation, meaning that we will still have to have numerous conversations, meaning that we will still have to get out and push out the information, but we'll have a little longer time to do that, depending on if the board wants to move towards referenda. That's the other part of this. We will still have our facility studies done. It'll give us a nice roadmap of what we will need, but we won't be able to start that process until the board again decides that this is what we want to do. And so, as a school district and the board administrator, I can want to move, but the board has to also want to decide this is the direction we want to go. Once that's decided, naturally we can continue with all the rest of the conversations. We can continue like I did in the previous referenda with opportunities. And as long as it takes us to get to that point, just understand that we are working within that window. There's 2 opportunities that we could possibly have, and we need to note this as well. One in April, that's a question that we can ask. The board has to make a decision of whether we want to go to April referenda. And then, of course, November. The board has to make a decision whether we're going to go in November or ask both questions. So you only get 2 questions in a year. And so that's something that we have to, those are the things that have to work through in order for us, again, to proceed with certain conversations. And again, the school district is committed, or my administration is committed to, moving forward with the recommendations from the board, but also want to make sure that we all know that there are things that we are still having to complete in order to better inform the board, or rather, in order to better inform the board of possible next steps. Once these things are completed, and I thank the board for allowing us to kind of, continue down this path, then again, we'll be able to get right back in front of, community members, make recommendations, and again, keep the conversation moving forward accordingly. But we can't move unless the board allows us to say, hey, we want to go to referendum. But the facility study is something that is being completed for us to make sure that we know exactly what we will need moving forward.
We're noted. Any other board member comment as we close? Okay. All right. So we have addressed 2A as we adjusted our agenda. So I'm going to go down to meeting closing and future meeting dates. Right now we have Tuesday, June 27th, 2023 is our regular June date. Some of the items that were listed in this agenda that we did not cover tonight, they may appear at other times in our other meetings, or they may appear at that June meeting, depending on the time sensitivity of what it is that needs to be covered. Because some of the items on the agenda are things that we're just trying to keep the conversation going as we work our way through. So we're now at our meeting closing. Is there a motion for adjournment, Board Member Miller?
Yes, so moved.
All right. I second that. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That is unanimous, and we are adjourned. Thank you.